You're listening to Glove Up or Shut Up on the Angry Marks Podcast Network.
You're listening to Glove Up or Shut Up on AngryMarks.com with Peter H. and Stevie J. Find them on Twitter at HardcoreCDN and at AngryMarks. And now, for all news, reviews, and interviews in mixed martial arts, it's time for Glove Up or Shut Up from AngryMarks.com.
And welcome everybody to another episode of Glove Up or Shut Up right here on AngryMarks.com. My name is Peter H. and I'm joined once again by my co-host from Omaha, Nebraska, Stevie J.
I would like to offer the following disclaimer for this episode of Glove Up or Shut Up. If anything changes from the time we recorded this to the time you're listening to this, it's not our fault, because there has been a very big breaking story that has changed every few minutes all day today.
And that news is Stevie J is retiring.
No, although CM Punk comedically claimed it, as did Nathan Diaz, but they were both responding to Conor McGregor.
Mauro Ranallo as well, he did a funny one too. And then somebody said UFC 200 is retiring.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think I actually like CM Punk's one best when he said, "I'm not retiring young, I'm retiring old." And then, of course, Front Row Brian said, to retire, you actually have to do something to retire from.
Whoa!
Brian got in a zinger on that.
Alright, so this is what we know right now. Around 4 o'clock this afternoon, there was a cryptic tweet from Conor's Twitter basically saying, thanks for the money, I'm going to retire young. And the internet exploded.
Yeah, he actually said, it's been fun, thanks for the cheese, see yous later.
So, with Conor, you have to take it with a grain of salt.
I kind of figured he was tweaking the internet, seeing how many people would take the bait and respond to it, and he had tens of thousands of retweets within a matter of minutes.
There was radio silence for a little bit afterwards, and where there's smoke, there's fire. Where there's silence, there's something up.
There was radio silence on UFC's part, but Ariel Helwani was speaking up, and he was saying, guys, there really is something to this. His camp says he's serious.
And his camp has been known to play pranks in the past, so...
Right, but then his coach Kavanaugh tweeted it was fun while it lasted. And that still didn't prove anything, but that was like the first smoke to the fire, as you refer to. And when I was talking to my wife about it, I said to her, you know, I still think Conor might be fooling around here, but 1 in 10 chance this means there's actually something to it.
And then around 7:30, 8 o'clock tonight, I believe, Dana White went on ESPN, because that's where he goes to break news, apparently.
Mm-hmm.
And said he's pulled Conor from UFC 200. He doesn't know what his future is, what Conor's future is. Only Conor can say that. But the reason he's being pulled off the card is because he didn't want to do the press conference for UFC 200.
No, that's not all. He refused to do anything to promote the fight. He wouldn't film commercials. He wouldn't do the press conferences. He wouldn't fly to Vegas for appearances. Basically, anything relating to promoting the fight, he flat out refused to do it. That's what Dana says. That's not Conor's word for it. That's just what Dana is saying about what Conor wouldn't do, which is why, allegedly, he's off the UFC 200 card.
Now, do we know... Let me rephrase. We do know that there is precedent for a fighter not wanting to do press and what the consequences are.
Right. You can be pulled from a card for refusing to do your media obligations. It has happened. We've covered it.
So, there are a few questions coming out of the announcement from Dana White, and there are many layers of this story, so we're going to try to break it down as much as we can as we know it right now, as of recording. But my first question to you is, Stevie, with Conor off the card, does the interim title fight become a title fight?
That's a good question, and I can't give you an answer. I have no idea what that means for Frankie Edgar and Jose Aldo. All I know is that it was already strange to have your featherweight champion fighting at welterweight on the same card as an interim featherweight title fight. You and I both already talked about that. It was a very strange set of circumstances that has now only gotten stranger. This also doesn't answer the question of what happens to Nathan Diaz. He had already signed to take the fight. What's he going to do now?
Probably get his show money.
Yeah, I suppose they would, but I'm sure they'd prefer to pay him that money to actually fight somebody. The question is, can they find him a new opponent, and would he agree to it?
Well, funny you mentioned that. So, Cowboy Cerrone was on Twitter tonight.
I see
and
where this
hardcore
is going.
fans are cringing at my next words here, so...
Yeah, I know what's coming, but go ahead anyway.
He said he has this thing up in June up in Canada, but afterwards I'm free. So his opponent, Patrick Cote, has said in response, yeah, funny thing, I'll be free after June as well, but I'll be on a winning streak.
Ooh, yeah, calling him out on it right away. I like that.
Yeah, so I'm really looking forward to the Cote Cerrone fight, and let's just put a big old log on that fire.
Yeah, one of those two could definitely claim it, but hey, they'd have to get out of that fight injury-free to be able to turn around and take another on what would be pretty short notice.
But someone who takes fights on short notice, his name is Donald Cerrone.
Yeah, that guy takes almost anything. He's fearless about that sort of situation. So, we'll see if it pans out. I don't know. It's too early to say, and it's a pretty big risk. You don't want to go in on short notice on Nate Diaz, because Nate Diaz is the kind of guy who goes in on short notice and whoops your ass.
But let's go back to Conor McGregor, because there's a few... God, if Big D was here from Super Friends Universe, I could say he's doing some conspiracy theories here. But there's two that I've heard already, which is weird, because it's really short, time frame, and people are already spitting out theories, but...
Oh, I've heard at least a half dozen today, so I want to hear what the two that you have are.
One is, as ridiculous as it sounds, and this is, the actuality of this being true is 100% bullcrap in my opinion, and that is Conor's holding out for more money.
I heard that one, so that's on my list. What's your second one?
And it's something we covered on this show last week. The death of one of his teammates has shaken him up more than we realize.
I have heard that one as well, but you haven't hit on my favorite out of all the conspiracy theories so far.
What's that?
That Conor McGregor wants to be a fight promoter, wants to put on shows in his home country, and his duties with UFC would interfere from him being a promoter, which is why he decided to retire.
Sorry, I got some breaking news here, boss.
Okay, well, like I said at the beginning of the show, if the story changes by the time you listen to this, then...
No, it's not a Conor story, but this is a big breaking news story.
Oh dear, if it's bigger than Conor McGregor, that's saying something. What's going on?
UFC Hall of Famer BJ Penn is now being investigated by Hawaii police for an alleged sexual assault.
Oh, I hate to say it, but I already knew about that one, and we were going to talk about it in the news. So sorry, I don't consider that bigger than Conor McGregor right now.
Considering he just skated on one charge and now he's being investigated for another,
I know, but I didn't think that was bigger than Conor McGregor. On any day where Conor McGregor didn't become the focus of all of our attention, that would have been the lead story, but not today.
Alright, well, we'll agree to disagree, but let's go back to Conor for a moment. And this is actually you'll get the reference in 2 seconds. But just a little while ago, Coach Kavanaugh tweeted out again another good tweet, and it's a YouTube link. He tweeted out the hook from Without Me.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Well, I suppose if you want to claim that, then he is making the claim that mixed martial arts without Conor is like rap without Eminem. I guess that's where he's going with that.
So, if a fighter retires, in essence, does he have a no-compete?
Well, yeah, you can't get out of your contract by retiring. Randy Couture already tried that one. It didn't work out for him.
Okay. Because one of the crazier theories, that I've seen, I didn't want to really mention because I thought, there's no string of truth to it, you know what I mean? But he couldn't jump to Bellator.
No, absolutely not. Like I said, this has already been attempted. Couture tried to retire and then tried to do other things, and UFC said he couldn't, and he sued, and it went through the courts for a couple of years, and finally he realized that the clock was ticking on his career while things weren't being settled, and he gave up, and UFC and him came to an agreement, and he fulfilled the rest of his contract. So, like I said, you cannot get out of a contract that way. If you could, then we wouldn't have had the whole Bellator UFC situation with Eddie Alvarez either. It's one of those things where you sign for X number of fights, you may think you can get out of it and jump to another promotion, but as Rampage Jackson learned, sooner or later you're going to have to fulfill those dates.
Now, if this is, just for a second, let's entertain the notion that this is legit. I'm not saying it is, I'm not saying it isn't, we just don't know. It's like the early dawn of this story. Because I feel we're going to talk about this story for a while, you know what I mean? Like, over the weeks to come.
Yeah, this is far from over. All we know is that he's off UFC 200. We still don't know if that tweet is legit, if that really means he's done or not. There's no proof.
So let's say it is, just for sake of argument.
All right, for the sake of argument, Conor is retiring.
There is rumors of a former UFC champion making a surprise return to UFC 200.
Well, I don't think it would be much of a surprise at this point if GSP came back. The problem is he's got some other issues with UFC that are not yet resolved, including that he doesn't want to be a part of the Reebok deal.
True, and also he's coming off rotator cuff surgery.
Yeah, that's becoming a very frequent and common injury. You saw that also happened to Stone Cold Steve Austin, right?
Yeah, that's, it's not an easy injury to overcome.
No. That's why when somebody suggested to me that I might have a torn rotator cuff, I was like, you know what, let's just see if this heals on its own, because I'm not going under the knife if I don't have to.
But he says he's basically doing a full camp now to see if he can still do one. And then we'll see what happens. But yeah, the Reebok deal, he signed his contract before it came into effect, so there would have to be some renegotiations, wouldn't there?
Right. And Michelle and I talked about this earlier. Sorry to keep bringing her up, but she's my sounding board for a lot of this. So this is where fight fans are going to find out right here, right now, that when I'm trying to figure these things out, a lot of times I go to my wife and talk to her about them because you don't live here in the same house as me, Peter. So I can't go to you and figure this out and bounce ideas off you. I can only do that on this show. So I talked to her about it, and I said, I get where he's coming from, that he doesn't want to be a part of the Reebok deal, but if they let him get out of it and still wear his own sponsors, then every other fighter who's anywhere near as close to the elite as him, like a top 5 guy in any weight class, will go, GSP doesn't have to do it, why do I? And it's the domino effect. You can't let GSP do it, because then everybody else will want to as well.
The odds of GSP, being the savior, so to speak, to save UFC 200, because I think without Conor on the main card, you're going to have someone to get the marquee, so to speak.
And quite frankly, GSP and Nate Diaz would be much more interesting to me than GSP and Donald Cerrone or GSP and Patrick Cote.
Has anybody beaten both Diaz brothers?
I'm sure somebody has off the top of my head. I can't think of it, but it's not like both Diaz brothers haven't jumped around to the different weight classes. So there's got to be at least one person theoretically who holds a win over both men. But GSP could definitely be that man if there wasn't somebody already.
I'm Trying to think of who in MMA has beaten like a brother combo. You know what I mean? It's got to be a short list.
Yeah. Well, if you want me to try to figure this out, I can pull up the records for both Nate and Nick Diaz and see if they have any common opponents. I'll give that a shot while we're talking.
Maybe BJ Penn. I don't know.
Like I said, I will look it up. I will give it a shot. I'll see if I can figure out if there's a common opponent between them.
Another thing, people are making a lot of comparisons between Conor McGregor and Floyd Money Mayweather.
Yeah, well, if it's all about that money, then that would be a fair comparison.
Plus, I mean, how many times has Mayweather retired from boxing and come back?
I've never really believed that Mayweather was retired. I believed that he wanted to break the record for the most wins undefeated, and that was his goal all along. The only times he would be retired were when there weren't a big enough money fight for him to be Money Mayweather in.
Oh, so we've talked boxing, we've talked... Oh, man.
Okay, I'm looking at their respective records here, and the problem is that Nick Diaz has... I say this with all due respect to Nate Diaz, but Nick has fought a higher level of competition than his brother.
And of course, the reason we talk about the elder Diaz is because we talked about earlier, he is the one who refused to do any press for one of his fights, and he was subsequently replaced.
Indeed, that was where he came up originally in the conversation, not including the fact that, of course, he needs a new opponent.
That too. But as far as this story, as of right now, we think Conor McGregor is retired. We don't know. I think it's not a hoax, but I think there's something more to the story that we're not seeing. There's a piece of the puzzle that's obscured at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? It's something we're not seeing, and until we see all the cards on the table, I mean, you gotta just... Well, I think my old professor, I say this all the time on the show, only time will tell.
That's true.
But let's move on. Actually, before we do, certain fighters have reacted to this on Twitter like they do. We already talked about Cowboy and Cote. Even the world of Bellator, Benson Henderson has put out a response. It was captured, I believe, at ESPN Studios, if I'm not mistaken.
Right, he was there, obviously, to do promotional work for the Koreshkov-Henderson fight that he's in on Friday, where he's challenging for the welterweight title in Bellator, and he was asked what he thought of it and put his hand up to his mouth to yawn.
So, what was he said off air? He's trash talking, but not trash talking?
Right, it's kind of a sly way for him to get in a little dig at Conor McGregor there. Like, he can always claim, oh, I was just tired, I needed some coffee, but we know what he's trying to say when he puts his hand up over his mouth and yawns when the reporter asks him that question. It's like, that's what he thinks of Conor McGregor. He's saying it without saying it.
Now, if you're a fighter and you're in the rankings, let's just say, do you think it's wise to, I don't know, rock the boat with a certain tweet, so to speak, in this issue?
In what sense do you mean that? Who's rocking the boat and how?
Josh Barnett has commented on this. He's one of the big heavyweight ranking guys, right? Still his top 10, I believe?
I think he's hanging on to a top 10 spot at this point. Let me confirm that by pulling up the rankings. He is currently number 9.
So it seems the McGregor retirement rumor is true. My thoughts? It's about the cash. Goes to UFC wanting more money, and they said no. Do you really want to attack the people who pay your paychecks like that?
I don't read that as an attack. I'm not sure how him saying that Conor McGregor asked for more cash and UFC said no is attacking UFC. That's actually more like supporting your employer, saying they held my employer up for ransom. They refused.
But, I mean, we could talk about the story all night, but how much money is he asking for? He's got to be one of the best paid fighters on the roster as it is.
Well, again, referring to the person who I used as my sounding board for this issue tonight, I said to Michelle, he was already going to get $10 million for this fight. How much more could he have really asked for?
I don't know.
I mean, when is enough money enough? I mean, I don't blame the guy for trying to get every dime he can, because fighting is a brutal business. Nobody lasts forever. You should make as much as you can while you can. But at some point, do you ask for so much that you just effectively priced yourself out of the market?
Like, no one would pay that price type of deal.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned Money Mayweather. There's very few people who can pull in the kind of money that he does. You gotta be a once-in-a-lifetime feature attraction that people either just are so for or against you, so polarized in every single respect about you, that you can sell tickets for $50,000 at ringside and charge $100 for the pay-per-view, and there are people who will still pay it. Then you can get paid like $20 million or more for a fight. But that's like a once-in-a-lifetime kind of fighter. And even as good or possibly even great as Conor McGregor is, I don't know that he's that once-in-a-lifetime guy.
Do you think Conor makes as much or more than Ronda Rousey?
At this point, that's even harder to say, because Ronda is now enamored with Hollywood and vice versa. So we don't know what her upper limit of earnings was. The only thing I'm going to say about this, if we're talking about who is probably the best paid of all time, I would say it would be Anderson Silva, Ronda Rousey, GSP, and not in that order.
You don't think John Jones is up there?
I bet John Jones is in the top 10 somewhere, but he's had so many problems of late that it's hard. It's really hard to say. And the reason that I put GSP and Ronda ahead of him is that they've done bigger buy rates for their pay-per-views. And if you're basing it on you get $1 for every pay-per-view or you get $2 for every pay-per-view, then Jones would actually lag behind them because they've done bigger pay-per-view numbers than he has. GSP in particular, when you look at his drawing power and you include the fact that it seems like virtually all of Canada buys his pay-per-view, that he is a top earner way above John Jones.
Well, let's transition. We talked about Benson Henderson. Let's continue with the Bellator theme. Bellator's got a show this weekend.
That's right. Koreshkov versus Henderson, taking place at the Mohegan Sun Arena in Uncasville, Connecticut, which coincidentally enough is where Andrei Koreshkov won the welterweight title last year, defeating Douglas Lima over 5 rounds for a unanimous decision.
So in this main event, who do you got?
You know, it's a real tough one to call. I mean, we know that Benson Henderson is incredibly hard to finish. This guy's only been knocked out once in his entire career. He's lost very few fights overall. I mean, I used to call him Gumby when I watched him in the WEC days, because you could bend him any which way, but you couldn't tap him out. That's how tough it is to beat Benson Henderson. And when it goes 5 rounds, and I know people really started to resent this about him in UFC, but Benson Henderson is one of those guys that knows what judges want to see. You may look at his fight and you may think he's losing, but he's doing what those judges want to see in terms of outpointing his opponent. And if you go 5 rounds with him and it goes to a split decision, there is a pretty damn good chance that you're going to lose.
It's an interesting matchup, and it's a very interesting debut for Benson and Bellator.
Mm-hmm. The thing that I think really stands out about this fight is the size difference. Now, I interviewed Andrei Koreshkov, and he didn't think that this was a problem. He didn't think that Benson Henderson was too small for the weight class. He even called him an average-sized welterweight. And I'll respect the man's opinion. He is the champion. I was honored to interview him. He's entitled to that opinion. However, I look at the height difference, and I don't buy that. Koreshkov is 6'1" and has a 74-inch reach. Benson Henderson is 5'9" and has a 70-inch reach. There's a reason Benson Henderson used to be a big, strong lightweight, and why he's a, quote, average size, unquote, welterweight. And on top of that, I know Benson's only been knocked out once, but that was fighting lightweight fights. And he's fighting a guy who is naturally bigger, naturally stronger, and has a lot of finishes on his record. You know, if you get into a striking battle with Koreshkov, you're going to lose. 10 knockouts, and he's finished 72% of his wins overall. He also has 3 submissions. So Spartan's not a guy you want to stand and trade with. And my opinion, and it's mine alone, is that Koreshkov will retain, and Benson may reconsider wanting to stay at welterweight.
Do you think they're going to have Benson, how do I say this, tie up his hair?
I think they'll probably have him braid it or tie it back, but I don't think it'll be too much of an issue.
We've seen fighters in the past complain about that.
Yes, I don't think it'll be too much of an issue. I haven't heard any controversy about it. I don't expect there to be any.
And please, Benson, leave the toothpick at home.
Yeah, don't leave it in your mouth during the fight. For the love of God, don't do that.
I mean, you don't want to have that in your mouth or your throat when you get hit in the face. Because this guy, he'll hit you in the face.
Yeah. Again, I hate to say it, 'cause you know me, I think Benson Henderson is fantastic. He's been public enemy number 1 for going a lot of split decisions that people thought he lost that he actually won. But I've been a fan of the guy going back to the mid-2000s. I think he's fantastic. The size difference here really bothers me. I know he found ways to overcome it in his last 2 fights before he left UFC, but it's not like he was winning every round of both of his UFC welterweight fights. In fact, in the second one, I think until he got that submission, he was probably getting his ass kicked.
So, I'm going to go with the champ here, but I'm going to say 4th round he'll stop him.
Alright, well, if it goes later than 4 rounds, then there's every chance that Benson Henderson wins it on points. But if it's a finish, Koreshkov will be the man to finish it.
Alright, so let's talk about the next fight. It's another Pitbull fight.
Yeah, Patricio Freire fighting Henry Corrales, who is a late replacement for John Teixeira, much like the last week's fight, which we haven't even talked about yet, where we had a late replacement for Patricky Freire fighting Kevin Souza, formerly of UFC fame. So both these Pitbull brothers had to fight a short notice replacement. Although I guess Patricio knew about his a little further out and had a little more time to prepare. But here's the thing about Henry Corrales. He came in with a lot of hype behind him. He was undefeated, looked like he was going to do big things in Bellator. That has not panned out for him. He lost to Emmanuel Sanchez. He lost his debut fight against Daniel Strauss. And now it looks like he's going to lose a 3rd fight in a row because he's taken it on short notice. I just don't know with Henry Corrales if he should have come up to Bellator when he did. I mean, yeah, you're a prospect, you're undefeated, you're 10-0, everybody's all behind you, but maybe a few more fights on the minor circuit or the regional circuit would have been a little better for him, because against Bellator Comp, he keeps getting put in against the top guys, and it keeps not working out for him.
I'm going to go with Pitbull on this one, but, I mean, he shouldn't take Corrales lightly, because I think Corrales is...
He has a talent. He has...
dangerous.
He's got 4 knockouts and 6 submissions before he came to Bellator. He is legit. It's just...
I don't think he's all hype, that's for sure.
No, he's not all hype. It's just he's taken a fight against Patricio Pitbull on short notice, and dangerous is not even beginning to describe a Pitbull fighter. You know, either one of them is dangerous on the feet, and Patricio is dangerous all around. He's a former champion. I wouldn't take a short notice fight with a former champion. I just wouldn't do it if I was a fighter. But I guess, you know what you like to say, Peter? I'm going to quote you.
Shoot.
This is one of those cases where Henry Corrales is playing with house money. He can go in there and not give a damn and just throw balls to the wall and see if he can pull it off.
I don't see with Corrales. I'm going to go a little bit different. I think he's not really playing with house money, but if he loses this fight, his next fight, yes, absolutely, because he's not in danger of getting cut here, but he might have a more cautious approach to this fight, not wanting to give Pitbull the opportunity to end the fight early.
You might be right, but that's why they fight the fights, so tune in Friday night on Spike TV.
Brennan Ward fights Evangelista Santos.
Now, this is a comeback story for Evangelista Santos. He had actually retired at one point, and it's kind of saying something when you're more famous for being Chris Cyborg's ex. Like, yeah, I'd probably retire too in that case. But he came back earlier this year, had a fight, I believe it was in Legacy Fighting, and he won that fight. So now he gets this chance in Bellator because he came back successfully. But his chin is very, very, very questionable. Out of his 16...
Not saying Glass Joe, but...
Well, he's lost 16 fights and been knocked out in 10 of those 16, so... Yeah, and Brennan Ward is a guy who hits very hard, and he's borderline reckless about the way he does it. I've interviewed him, and I know this because it goes with what he said, and it goes with the way he's fought when I haven't been talking to him. He's the same either way. He just goes out there, balls to the wall. Now, I know I just said that for Corrales, but Brennan Ward fights that way all the time, not just on a short notice fight. Brennan Ward approaches every fight that way. He's like, I'm going to come out there guns blazing. If you can handle it, fine, and if you can't, too bad for you. And it's paid off. He's on a 4-fight win streak, so... Why am I going to think a guy that fights with reckless abandon, who hits like a ton of bricks, is facing a guy with a, allegedly glass jaw and is going to lose? I don't think that's going to happen. I think Brennan Ward knocks him the F out.
When it comes to Ward, I picture him at the arcade back in the day with that punching bag game.
Mm-hmm.
And testing his strengths to even get the highest score. That's how hard this guy hits.
Yeah. Brennan Ward is just deceptively strong. This is a guy who can fight at light heavyweight or heavyweight, and unlike Rumble Johnson, does not have a problem making that cut.
All right, Brett Primus against Gliristone Santos.
This is a very intriguing fight that is probably going to be completely overlooked by the people watching this show, because Primus is undefeated. He was a big-time prospect up to a point here in Bellator, and that point was Derek Anderson, who he probably should have smoked if he was everything people said, and he only just managed to pull out a split decision win by the skin of his teeth. So that knocked a little luster out the hype train for Primus. And Santos, he's a guy that, again, had a good hype train behind him for a while. He looked like he was the shit in Brazil, but as we say sometimes, who are you fighting in your own country versus the quality of opponents you'll face when you're on the professional circuit for Bellator or UFC? Maybe not the same quality of fighters. And We saw that when the aforementioned John Tejera beat Santos via split decision, and I guess he thought that was a signal too, because he's like, well, damn, I had all this hype, I came to Bellator, I lost a featherweight fight, maybe I should try my hand at lightweight. Will going up in weight be to his benefit? I'm going to say yes. I'm actually picking Glairstone Santos to win this fight.
All right, and we've got one more here I want to talk about before we talk about last week's Bellator show, and that is Michael Page against Jeremy Holloway.
I want to give Jeremy Holloway some respect before I say what I think will happen, and that respect comes in the fact that Jeremy Holloway is 7-1. He came in undefeated, but he, Matt Secor wasn't maybe the biggest name ever out there among Bellator or any other promotion's fighters, and he came in undefeated and lost to Matt Secor, and that leaves me to think they just want Michael Page to knock him the hell out. I'm not accusing them of cherry-picking fighters for Michael Page to beat up, but I kinda am, because there's a lot of hype behind him. They like his style, they like his shades, they like his striking, they think he's a big deal, and they keep giving him guys he can beat, and that's gotta come to an end here. If he decisively beats Jeremy Holloway, which I am absolutely picking him to do, it's time to just step up and fight one of the other contenders. He needs to be fighting a guy like Brennan Ward.
But do you think this fight will get, how do I say this? Do you think this fight is for the casuals or for the hardcores?
I think this is a casual fight. I think this is a fight where they want him to go in there, do his spinning strikes, do his wacky karate stances, do his post-fight promo with his shades on, as somebody did on last week's show, as a matter of fact, and they're just looking to continue to build up the name MVP. They want Michael Venom Page to be a draw. Well, he is to a point, and that point is he needs better competition real soon.
All right, well, speaking of competition, let's talk about the show in Italy.
Indeed. The main event was competitive, but not in an enthralling way.
Not a snoozer?
Ooh, paint drying would be more exciting.
Yeah.
It was a great card up till the main event, and I'm terribly conflicted about that as a guy that is a fan of Patricky in general, enjoys interviewing him in particular, has thought he got a raw deal several times in his Bellator career, but for this fight, he'd have nobody to blame but himself. I mean, he won, but if he wanted to go in there and just prove a point and show that he gets to be in a title picture and get a title shot, he didn't do that. He had the tailor-made opponent to do that with. He had a short replacement opponent, and not to say that he didn't have that same chance against Derek Campos, because he'd already fought him once before and beaten him once before, but it really should have been a doable thing to face a guy coming in on short notice and just cream him, especially when he had to come up in weight to meet your weight class. But all he did, all he could do, I guess, was just let Souza circle on the outside and approach him, throw a shot, throw another shot, approach him, throw a shot, and then eventually get a takedown and hold on. And I'm watching this fight, I'm watching him do it round after round. I'm like, you must have gotten spooked somewhere along the line that this guy was going to come in on short notice and just ruin your momentum towards getting a lightweight shot. So instead of going for broke, you chose to play it safe. And it worked. I guess, we always say if it works, then more power to you. But if you're looking for excitement in your fights, you don't want to see the guy playing it safe to get a win on points. That's not fun to watch.
I had two thoughts on this. One, maybe he was hurt.
Yeah, there could have been an undisclosed injury, and he was trying to be careful because of that. But again, I can only say I interviewed him, and he didn't say he had any injuries. So he might have been bullshitting. I can't tell you.
And the other thing I could think of, when did Pitbull Ferrari there, when did he change his name to Ben Askren?
I can't tell you that. I don't know. But you know what? If they're going to look for a new opponent for Nate Diaz, why not Ben Askren?
No. Don't give him that idea.
Well, as much as
they do that, they better give out some UFC 200 commemorative pillows.
All I know is if they want Nate Diaz to go out there and have a fun time, let him go out there and punch Ben Askren into unconsciousness. That'll make him happy. That'll make the fans happy. That'll make you happy.
Well, the same result. Someone's going to sleep.
Yeah, I guess whether it's a pillow or a knockout, it's a sleeper either way.
Ben Askren.
Speaking of people going to sleep, Brian Rogers got put out cold.
Oh, did he ever? Woo!
Yeah. Alessio Sakara, I give him more credit now after that fight, because I thought he was fighting also-rans and never-wers in his post-UFC career, but he came in here with a point to prove, and Rogers, well, he had a chance in the first round because he got a takedown and looked like he was a little stronger and a little more able to ride the storm, so to speak, but once the second round began and he complained about Sakara pulling on his hair, Sakara's like, okay, if you think I need to grab your hair to hit you with a punch, I'll show you what I can do without grabbing your hair. And he decked him with a right and hit him with a kick and then decked him with another right, and he went down hard. Like, immediately, Mark Goddard's rushing over there like, no, don't hit him with anything else, this is over. And Rogers was down for a while.
I got nervous, I'll admit. I got really nervous when I saw him go out, and it's like, guys?
Yeah.
Guys? Hello?
He had one of those, he's out of the fight moments where it's like his entire body collapsed on him. Like, his brain disconnected from his spine, and he just crumpled. I'm sorry if that sounds gruesome to you listening to this right now. I apologize, but that is how it visually looked. Like, somebody cut the strings on Pinocchio, and he just fell.
Like there's a light switch on him, and he found the off switch.
Yeah, Alessio Sakara found the off switch, and in his post-fight promo, he said, I'll fight for Bellator in Italy again anytime. And I'm hearing him say that, and I'm thinking, how about outside of Italy? Can you come to the United States and do that? What I thought was really funny was that in his post-fight interview, they had a translator there, and then he just starts answering questions in English. It's like, duh, we knew you could answer questions in English. You were in UFC for years.
Speaking of a knockout, AJ McKee knocked out Danilo Bellaruardo.
Bellaruardo. His nickname is the Caterpillar. Is there anything else you need to know other than that?
The Caterpillar?
Yeah, he actually had it tattooed on his chest. Didn't you see that?
Oh, I did, but I just...
Of all the nicknames, right? That's what you're thinking. Well, my analysis of the fight before it took place was that's his only chance to win is to be a Caterpillar and to just make it a slow fight and drag it into the deep waters because McKee is a first-round finisher. Bellaruardo never got that chance. He had one chance. He kicked him in the groin. He kicked him so hard in the jimmy that the fight was stopped, and I think that lit a fire under AJ McKee's ass, because he
Did you say he kicked him in Detroit?
Yeah, he kicked him in Detroit. He kicked him.
I've never heard that before.
Well, if you're going to kick something down, kick somebody where they're down. Detroit's been down a lot, so.
Oh, yeah, you got it. Yeah. I see the comparison, but I've never heard that comparison before.
Mm-hmm. He kicked him in Detroit.
What else we got? Anastasia Yankov against Angel Pink and Yankova.
Yankova.
Yankova. That was quick.
Yeah, her name is not Smirnov Yankov.
What do you think of the armbar?
I thought it was very good against a very not good opponent. I mean,
it seemed like textbook. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. Well, the word I used to describe it in my post-fight recap is that Pink was hapless, meaning she looked perplexed, flummoxed, overwhelmed, totally out of her depth going in there with Yankova. At one point, Yankova just drug her to the ground. And I don't mean she tripped her, and I don't mean she gave her a judo throw. I mean, she just physically grabbed onto her, said, "You're coming with me," and took her there. And once she got her there, Pink couldn't do anything but try to put her feet on the cage and push away. And Yankova said, "Nope," and spun to a mount. And then Pink tried to escape. She flopped around like a fish in a boat. And Yankova said, "Nope," and went for the armbar. And like you said, textbook. It was almost like she was putting on a jiu-jitsu clinic.
And let's wrap up this Bellator review with one more fight.
Yeah, Daniele Scatizzi and Daniele Maselli. Going into this fight, I picked Scatizzi because he had more experience and the better record. And once again, it was a pretty one-sided fight. All I can say is that Scatizzi just overwhelmed him on the ground. He just got on his back and punched it out until Big John McCarthy said, "Enough's enough here. You're not fighting back enough. This fight's over."
All right, well, let's quickly review last weekend's UFC show from Tampa, Florida.
Yes, indeed. Glover Teixeira versus Rashad Evans in the main event. Peter, your thoughts on the scintillating knockout blow that Glover delivered to Rashad?
Can we play the Chris Tucker drop?
I'm sure we can. You got knocked the F out. You know, I like one of the old cliches. You've used it. Many people have used it. He wasn't getting paid by the hour here.
Oh.
I think he wanted everybody in Tampa, Florida to enjoy the rest of their night. He's like, "I'll make it easy for you people. Here you go. 1 minute, 48 seconds, bada boom, bada bing. This is over."
Do you think he's done? Like, do you think he's going to retire after this loss?
I don't know if Rashad would retire, but he does have to think about the fact that he's got other things he can do. He's a really good analyst for Fox. He's a really good analyst on UFC commentary panels. He doesn't need to take punishment like that. He doesn't need to scramble his brains because he's a very intelligent guy. He's a former champion. He's always going to have that credential in his back pocket to show he's legit. Does he need to prove it at this point to anybody else? My answer would be no. He's been there. He's done that. Enjoy the fruits of your labor and be a commentator and do analysis. And just don't take more punches like the one Glover hit you with. Please.
So, what do you do with Glover now?
With Glover, I think he said the right thing after the fight. He said, "I would like a fight with Rumble Johnson." And I would give him that fight because we already saw how this went the previous time Glover fought John Jones. Jones has his own issue to deal with this weekend. We're getting to that in a little bit. But It's hard to imagine a situation where Glover beats John Jones. You know, we have this discussion. We had it off the air. We've had it on the air. But there are certain people in certain weight classes that you look at and you go, you're always going to be number two. You're always going to be right there, and the guy ahead of you is just your kryptonite, and you're never going to beat him. And with Alexander Gustafsson and Glover Teixeira, John Jones is that guy. They can always be number two, but as long as John Jones is around, they're never going to be number one.
All right, well, let's transition to the next fight here, and I mean...
Were you not a fan of Rose Namajunas and Tisha Torres? Did you not like this fight?
I'm trying to figure out what to say here because what happened and what I thought would happen, not the same.
Well, it wasn't a blowout either way. That's definitely the first thing you can say about this fight. But as somebody who has seen this fight before in person in Kansas City, I would like to say that Rose showed me what I wanted to see. She didn't deliver super exciting, oh my God, blow her away, give me the next title shot level of performance, but she showed that she has improved in the time since she fought Tisha Torres last. She showed that she is now capable of beating anybody in the weight class, and that's what I wanted to see from this fight.
I thought there'd be a finish here. Like, the day leading up to the fight, I was thinking, well, I've been hemming and hawing over it in my head, been going back and forth, and I think Rose could have put Torres away, but then I was thinking, well, I mean, Torres isn't going to be an easy put down. She's not going to be an easy victory here. So maybe it won't be an easy fight. Maybe it will be a decision, but I was really hoping that Rose could have shown not like a dominant spirit, but like I thought she would have pulled off a finish by hook or by crook.
Well, I think there were times that she was thinking about a submission. She was trying to get takedowns and take Tisha to the ground, and again, it's not like these two haven't fought before and don't know each other well. It's just that they've each improved in different ways. Like, Rose has improved her defense and her overall stand-up game, but Tisha has not, like, completely deteriorated in that time. Even though Rose may have improved more and improved faster, Tisha's still got hella good defense against takedowns. So Rose wanted those takedowns, and Tisha was not giving them up.
Now, do you think that, I don't know, do you think they'll rematch them again?
I don't know. I mean, if there's a compelling reason to, like, if Tisha goes and wins a bunch of fights and Rose is not the champion but is still a contender, then maybe you can do a rubber match and settle the score. But right now, Rose is the one with the upward momentum because she's been featured a couple of times now on free TV, and each time she's done that, she's come away with a big win that has pushed her up in the weight class. So at this point, you'd have to say, give me a compelling reason for a third fight, because you're not going to go in there and tell Rose Namajunas, hey, you don't get to fight the winner of Joanna and Claudia Gadelha, because right now she has earned that right to fight the winner of that fight.
Yeah. All right, so the late replacement fight here, Daryl Horcher against Khabib Nurmagomedov.
It took Khabib a round longer than I thought it would.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, Daryl Horcher deserves the credit that he's due for taking it on short notice, but Khabib had been off for a couple of years with injuries. He was super motivated for this fight, and this was not his original opponent, as you've already noted. So there was little doubt here he was going to go in here and prove a point. Like, I was supposed to fight Tony Ferguson. I didn't get to. So I'm just going to go out here and smoke this guy and show you what I would have done to El Kukui if I'd fought him. And that's why I say it took a round longer than I expected, because Horcher was game. He went in there and he hung with him for a round, but he wasn't winning that round. And then in the second, he just got taken apart.
And, you know, the other fight on the main card, Cub Swanson beating Hakron Diaz, unanimous decision, 2-1.
There were several times during this fight that I thought, Cub Swanson wants to knock him out. Cub Swanson is gonna knock him out. I mean, there was one point where it was coming back between rounds, and when they came back, you saw him standing there rolling his fist over and over like, I'm gonna hit you with this. I'm coming to hit you with this. You know I'm going to hit you with this. And then like 30 seconds to a minute later, he did indeed hit Hakron Diaz with it. And you could see Hakron Diaz stumbling around a little bit. And then he didn't finish him. And I'm like, huh?
Yeah, well, I mean, Swanson, I mean, he's one of those guys I think will have a job in UFC for a little bit. Like, you know, maybe some guy, if his contract is due, he'll sign like a 6-fight deal.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't think he's on the tail end of his career.
Not at all. I mean, he is in the elite of the featherweight division. He's not ahead of Frankie Edgar or Max Holloway right now, but he's in that mix at number 6, and beating Hakron Diaz, who is number 10 in the division, he did what he had to do. He went out there and proved I'm better than this, not just because the rankings say so, but because I'm a better striker. I got better ground game. I've been in there with the best of the best. I may not have beaten all the best, but my level of experience shows that I can beat your ass, and he did. Even though it was a decision, I feel at the end of those 3 rounds, he was pretty clearly the winner.
Go to the prelims, and we talked about this last week, and I made the comment, you want to see Chiesa win via submission, via rear naked choke.
Why does everybody assume it's a ch, like Charlie? No, it's Chiesa.
Okay, Chiesa.
Thank you. Yes, he did what you said. He got the rear naked choke, and he did what I said, which was he is the up-and-coming fighter right now, so he took it to Beneil and got what he wanted.
This next fight, I'll defer to you because I'll be honest, I missed this fight. I just saw the result. I came in the room and they were at the judge's decision.
It's a little bit hard for me to say because it's a split decision. I don't know if I agree with it or not. I have to watch the whole fight again to be sure because honestly, the 29-28 in favor of Betch doesn't seem wrong, but 2 judges being 29-28 for Pennington doesn't necessarily seem wrong either. It was super close.
It screamed to me rematch.
Yeah, except, again, this is one of those situations where you don't want to just give somebody a rematch just because it was a super close fight. If somebody clearly wins, whether it's close or not, you got a winner, it's not a draw, then you got to move them up in the rankings and move them further towards getting a title shot or fighting a bigger opponent that's worth more money to fight. And right now, that's what we're looking at here with Raquel Pennington. She moves up 3 spots to number 9, and Betch Correa moves 3 spots down to number 11. So basically, they're trading places here in the rankings. And with that being done, you can't just do a rematch and give Betch a chance to get that back. She's got to fight a few people around her ranking or slightly above. She's got to fight like a Marion Renault or a Valentina Shevchenko and prove that she deserves more upward momentum because right now she's moving down and Pennington's moving up. So whether you agree with the decision or not, that is what has resulted from it.
I've got a slight update from the Conor story.
Yeah, I knew this was going to keep changing throughout our show.
And it's a source, there's a source out there who is claiming something, Stevie, you actually predicted, like, bang on. But the source is saying Conor McGregor wants approximately $10 million for UFC 200, more than anyone else in past for a single fight. UFC said no, so he retired. Okay. You actually predicted the exact dollar figure.
Yeah, I just earned the title of prognosticator for the evening. How about that?
Jeez.
I'm good.
$10 million for a fight.
Yeah, well, he probably thought of himself as the $10 million man, and given his track record, why wouldn't you?
I guess. I mean, it's a big show-off.
Yeah, it's probably going to be the biggest UFC pay-per-view of all time, or at least it would have been, but who knows now?
Alright, I don't know anymore. Going back to the prelim card, the only fight really that surprised me, and not in a good way, John Dodson beating Manny the Anvil Gamburian in 47 seconds.
37. You're giving Manville the Anvil a little too much credit. You gave him 10 seconds more than he got.
Yeah,
He's done. Dude, you talk about who's done. He's more done than Rashad.
Yeah.
I mean, this was John Dodson coming back up in weight to bantamweight, and Manny came down to this weight trying to make his career at bantamweight, thinking, I wasn't really competitive up to this point. I had some losses. I had some no contests. I beat a couple of guys that I probably was supposed to beat and lost to a lot of guys that I could have beaten and didn't. I mean, he thought bantamweight was the answer to his problems, and he choked out Cody Gibson. Okay, that was impressive. He went to a decision with Scott Jorgensen. It's a little less impressive because Jorgensen's, he's been on the decline for a while too now. And then he just got completely smoked by John Dodson. And that is the level of strikers that Gamburian's going to face in this weight class. You know, he's not getting any easy draws, and Dodson just proved to him that you don't want the likes of me. You don't want anybody that hits as hard as I can hit, because you ain't going to last.
I think you're right. I think he's done. But we do have another UFC card to talk about. It's an action-packed show this week. 2 Bellators, 2 UFCs, and Conor McGregor retiring. I mean,
allegedly retiring. He's off UFC 200. That's all we know for sure.
UFC 197, Jones and OSP.
Yeah, that's another replacement fight. How about that? Don't you love mixed martial arts?
I thought you were going to say, do I love interim titles? And I know my response on that.
Yeah, I already know your response. I'm not going to ask you that question, but hey, this is the sport. This is what we signed up for. This is why we're here talking about mixed martial arts, because anything can happen, and we love that about it. But because of the fact that anything can happen, we also get opponents withdrawing from fights late in the build to the fight, and we get replacements. And Ovince St. Preux is a respectable replacement. He's not a scrub.
God, no.
This guy has earned his spot in the rankings. He is a quality fighter. He is right now ranked number 6 in the division, and you got to give him that, because you look at the guys he's beat, they're all respectable guys. He beat Fejao Cavalcante, he beat Patrick Cummins, he beat Shogun Rua. These are good guys that he beat. The only thing, the glaring thing that stands out is that he got choked out by Glover Teixeira. And we just talked about Glover and what he did to Rashad. So, there you go. But 3 out of his last 4, he beat really good guys. So, he's number 6. And then there's John Jones, who's only lost twice. And you're going to say, no, Stevie, he only lost once. He's lost twice. He lost once to Matt Hamill by illegal 12-6 elbows, which was total bullshit. And he lost once by getting in a hit-and-run car accident. That wasn't in the cage. That's 2 times he's lost. Only one.
He was sent to the cage.
He was sent to a completely different cage in Albuquerque, New Mexico. But I digress. My point here is he's only got 1 loss on his record. He is probably, pound for pound, the greatest fighter in UFC right now. And Ovince St. Preux ain't that.
If you think OSP is a scrub, tell it to his face.
I ain't gonna call him a scrub. He'd kick my ass, he'd kick your ass, he'd kick both of our asses at the same time. But he's
Laugh
not
about it too.
But he's not John Jones. And whether we like the way that John Jones acts outside of the cage, and he's got a litany of issues in that cage, he does things that no other human being does. And
I alluded to it earlier. This is for the interim light heavyweight title.
It's going home with Jones. If it doesn't, then this is a bigger upset than Holly Holm beating Ronda Rousey. And I don't know that from looking at the odds. And matter of fact, why don't I just pull those up right now and let's talk about it. What are the odds? Because I can't think Ovince St. Preux's got a very big line on this one. And I could be wrong, but I don't believe that I am. Let's see. What do you think? Give me your guess what this line is going to be, Peter.
I think Jones is a slight favorite, minus 300, OSP plus 250.
You are wrong, sir. Jones is a heavy favorite, minus 550. The comeback on OSP is plus 425.
Damn.
Yeah, they're not giving him much of a chance, but then neither am I, so there you go.
So, for sake of argument, Jones wins. Do we see Jones-Cormier unification at, I don't know, Madison Square Garden?
Yeah, it could happen. Or if Jones goes out there and completely blows through him and Cormier's injury heals up rather quickly, maybe that's that fight they need for UFC 200 now that Conor McGregor's off the card.
That's a quick turnaround, though.
I know it would be, but if they offer Jones that kind of money and Cormier could heal up fast enough, I bet you they'd both do it.
Aren't you going to the show in July?
I have not committed to that.
Alright, well, it's not the only title fight on the card, though.
Yes, indeed. The aforementioned Demetrius Johnson, who dominates his weight division like few other people do, is fighting Henry Cejudo, the only guy to come along in that weight class that he hasn't beat yet.
And there's, as we said last week, lots of, ramifications for this fight.
Well, indeed, because I believe Cejudo would like to go back to the Olympics again at some point, but he's put that aside for now in hopes of getting a different kind of gold. He wants UFC gold. But, and this is the big but here, he's undefeated, that's impressive. He's an Olympic wrestler with a lot of credentials, that's impressive. But in his last fight, he couldn't do any better than a split decision. You're gonna become a contender off a split decision off Jussier Formiga. Well, that just tells you how much DJ has wrecked the rest of the division. That just basically tells you there's nobody else for DJ to fight that he hasn't already beaten handily. So right now you've got Cejudo becoming the number 2 guy in the division by default simply because DJ hasn't beat him yet.
Yeah, but also, as far as I know, the Ultimate Fighter plans are still in effect, though.
That seems to be in flux right now. They did cancel the tryouts. I don't know that they reinstated them.
I think, well, no, I shouldn't say that. Let me rephrase. I believe I saw either a quote or I think it was a quote from DJ saying he doesn't care who they put in front of him as far as like the tough. You know what I mean? Like that doesn't concern him right now.
Right. He doesn't care if it's somebody in the class or somebody not even in the promotion. He'll approach the fight exactly the same either way. So, to my mind, he approaches this fight with Cejudo the same way. He says, okay, you're an Olympic wrestler. I'll give you that respect. Okay, you beat the number 3 guy in the division by split decision. I'll give you that respect. But I'm still faster than you. I still hit harder than you. And I own the record for the latest ever submission in a UFC title fight. So, you're not taking anything away from me in this fight, buddy. And that's why the odds makers have DJ as the minus 440 favorite and Cejudo is plus 350.
Now, do you think, boy, if Cejudo wins, do you still think they go ahead with Ultimate Fighter? I mean, the whole dynamic would change because...
You know what? Yeah, I would absolutely do that. Go ahead and crown a new contender to the throne and crown a new champion at the same time. And then let DJ go out there and have a fight to prove he would get a shot again. Like, just go ahead and do that and let Cejudo fight whoever wins tough in the meantime. But that ain't gonna happen.
No.
Now, you want to talk about the mother of all parlays, Peter? Go out there and put your bet on both Henry Cejudo and Ovid St. Preux. Make that your parlay, because if that pays, you are rolling in the motherfucking dough, brother.
I think the guy who bet on the Royals ain't making that bet.
Probably not.
Alright, let's move on to Edson Barboza against Anthony Pettis.
This one is competitive. It's a minus 175 for Pettis and plus 155 for Barboza, which tells me somebody making those odds watch the way Edson Barboza throws leg kicks.
Yeah. Well, Pettis is a hell of a fighter, though.
Yeah, and I still like him to win this fight. I think he's the better striker of the two. I think he's got the better ground game of the two, and I think Barboza is great with those leg kicks, but he's also proven to be a one-trick pony that he can rely on them too much to his own detriment.
Alright, let's move on to Rafael Natal against Robert Whittaker.
Fairly sizable line favoring Whittaker here. He is minus 310. Natal is plus 255. But what do you think, Peter?
I got Whittaker winning this hands down.
I had a feeling you might say that since he was the winner of the Tough Smashes welterweight tournament. He is number 8 right now. Let me double check, but I believe he's number 8 in the division. No, he's number 7. He's up one spot from where I thought he was. So, yeah, Robert Whittaker hits like a ton of bricks. He's got 7 knockouts and 15 wins, but he's also versatile. He's got 5 submissions as well, and he's beat the guys that you didn't think he could beat, and he's beating the guys that you did think he could beat. And I'm talking about guys like Mike Rhodes, who was a prospect on the rise, but he beat him and head-busted Clint Hester, knocked him the hell out with knees and punches. And Brad Tavares was definitely a top guy in the division at the time he beat him, and Uriah Hall was considered to be the next big thing until he got a unanimous decision over him. So, yeah, I would favor Whitaker as well in this fight, and not just because of that recent track record of success, but because I don't know. The only thing that stands out to me, other than the fact that they both beat Uriah Hall, which just goes to show you that Uriah Hall had some figuring things out to do, which hopefully he's done in the fight since. It looks like he's come back around, but
oh yeah, it's not like Uriah Hall's got a big fight coming up or anything.
That's what I was about to say. We'll really see if the proof's in the pudding for Uriah Hall when he fights Anderson Silva. So I was trying not to go there, but you went there anyway. So.
Well, I have to, because I mean, like, we talk about fighters taking their opponent lightly. That will not be the case in that fight.
No, indeed. So let's just see how it pans out for Uriah when he gets that opportunity. But in the meantime, in between time, we got Natal fighting here, and out of his recent 4-fight win streak, the one that really stands out to me is Tom Kong Watson.
Oh, jeez.
Watson was considered to be that guy at the time that he fought him. I mean, I'm sure if I go back and listen to our show about it, I'm sure that the odds makers had Watson as the favorite, and he got a unanimous decision over him. So I'll take that over any of his other 4 recent fights, more so than the Hall or the Kamosi or the Casey fight, as being the one that says Natal has a chance in this. It's just the striker, the caliber that Whitaker is, I don't think it's a good chance. I think it's a chance. I think that in the end, Whitaker wins.
All right, well, let's go with Yair Rodriguez against Andre Touchy Feely.
Yes, that's...
Can we stop calling him that?
You know, our friend Todd Martin would say that's a great nickname if he was here on the show. He thinks that's a fantastic nickname.
Oh, jeez.
You're not a fan. I know that for a fact. You've made your feelings about it quite clear. What you haven't made clear is who you think is going to win this fight. So let me go ahead and start, and you jump in here. Because Yair Rodriguez is 6-1, 4-fight win streak, and he's beaten Dan Hooker and Charles Rosa and Leandro Morales. It's, it's decent fights, I guess, but you wouldn't say there's any huge names among those. And as far as touchy-feely goes, a little more spotty record over his last 5 fights, 3-2. And he hasn't really beaten anybody I would consider a really big name out of those, except for Jeremy Larson. So, kind of a coin flip. And the odds say that as well, but before I tell you the odds, make your pick.
I'm going to go with Feely on this one.
He is the dog.
As I said, coin flip, right?
Yes, indeed, and that's why I say it's not wrong for you to make that pick, because it's plus 130 dog, so not a big underdog at all. Yair Rodriguez, minor favorite at minus 150. But you know what? I feel like this is the time that touchy-feely finally goes on a consistent basis and puts 2 wins together in a row for the first time since 2013. I think it happens for him here.
All right, well, what do you say about the prelims here? There's a couple of names on this card that even the casual fans will recognize.
Yeah, Sergio Pettis, it's another one of those times where brothers fight on the show together, and I think both brothers are going to win here. I like Pettis over Chris Colettes. He's minus 260, and Colettes is plus 180. I expect Sergio to pick up this win.
What about Carla Esparza against Julian Lima?
Odds makers would have us believe that Esparza will win handily, minus 210, to Lima at plus 160. And I think they're right about that, because neither the Nina Ansaroff win or the Erica Almeida win said to me, this woman is going to light the world on fire. Whereas I look at Esparza, and I look at her track record going all the way back to Invicta, and she holds a win over Rose Namajunas, who we were just talking about so highly earlier, and her only big loss is the loss to Joanna Champion when she lost the strawweight title. And people thought that meant, oh, Esparza was protected, she's overrated, she hadn't fought anybody of that high of a caliber. I say bullshit. I say Carla Esparza is still every bit as good as I thought she was before she lost, and I think when it gets right down to the nitty-gritty, she's going to take Juliana Lima off her feet and beat her the hell up.
Well, let's move on to the Fight Pass prelims, and there's some names in on this portion as well that casual fans would know.
We can't even get into that. We have to discuss the one guy on the prelims that is a source of controversy right now in this Fight Pass fight.
Oh, Clint Hester, no. Efren Escudero, no. Kevin Lee, no.
No, I'm talking about Cody East.
Yeah.
This guy was on Dana White's Looking for a Fight series on YouTube and got a UFC 197 fight off the strength of that. They've been promoting it as, look out for this guy, Cody East. He's the talk of the town. He's been on Looking for a Fight. He's all this, he's all that. And he's also got a track record of criminal and alleged sexual assault and a lot of other shady things that just, maybe he's not guilty of all the things he's ever been accused of doing, but he's not exactly been skating on the right side of the law his entire life.
No.
He's like a less infamous John Jones. How about that? It's like, yeah, you're not as well known, but you've got even more problems than Jones does.
Well, I've got another update on the Conor McGregor story.
Oh, here we go. Another update on the Conor McGregor story. Ladies and gentlemen, Peter, give us the breaking news.
I think somebody who writes for, what's this newspaper called? The New York Times. Is that still a big deal in the States there, Stevie?
Yeah, the New York Times is considered one of the top papers in the country. It'd be up there with the Washington Tribune and the Miami Herald and the Chicago Sun-Times and all the other reputable newspapers out there.
You think they have, what do you call those people, a proofreader at New York Times?
I would suspect that they have somebody to do that, considering it's a very well-established newspaper. That would not shock me.
Well, if you look on their website right now, they've got a story out there, and it's probably going to be in tomorrow's paper. They misspelled McGregor.
What did they spell it? MacGregor? Did they goof that up?
McGregor.
Kreger. Oh, lovely.
Stirs up U.F.C. with his retirement plans. And there's a picture of Conor, and the subtext is, Conor McGregor, spelled correctly, 27, leaving the cage after losing his title to Nate Diaz in March. The two were scheduled for a rematch.
They got about everything wrong they could possibly get wrong, didn't they?
And the New York Times, huh?
Yeah, that's unfortunate. That's a bad look for them. And speaking of a bad look, I just watched the knockout again from Glover and Rashad.
Yeah.
I didn't even mention this when we talked about it the first time, but watching it the second time just now, I saw the way Rashad stood up, and he was not all there.
No.
When he stood up after that fight, he was still on another planet. He was like, oh, hello. And even when Glover comes over to give him a hug, he's like, who are you? He was not all there.
It's like, where did I park my car?
Watching this in slow-mo is even more brutal. You can, God, just the way he just crumbles when that left hand hits him and he goes face down. I'm getting flashbacks of watching what Lyoto Machida did to him. Remember I told you when I was at that fight live that Lyoto Machida left him laying stupid? Like, it looked like he knocked the living brains right out of him and he was just slumped on the cage like he didn't have a mind in his body. That's how he looks after this Glover Teixeira finish.
I just feel bad for, like, that look on his face was totally like, what state am I in right now?
Yeah, deer in the headlights, this glassy-eyed, just not knowing where you are and not being able to respond to anything.
All right, so we got one more news item to talk about, then we should wrap up the show because we're running long this week.
Oh, well, before we wrap it up, something else will happen with Conor McGregor.
No, it's not a Conor McGregor story, but it does involve breaking the law in this story.
Oh, you're going to talk about Diego Brandao, aren't you?
Stop me if you've heard this before, but MMA fighter gets arrested in Albuquerque, New Mexico.
Yeah, this time not the one we've all grown accustomed to getting arrested. And this one's funny. If you don't mind me taking the lead, I'll explain.
Oh, go for it.
So, this gentleman was at a strip club in Albuquerque. We don't know what he was doing before or during his stay there, but he was apparently asked to leave and did so unwillingly. Was he intoxicated? Perhaps. I don't know that. You don't know that. But he was not behaving in a gentlemanly manner and was escorted out. He came back later and argued with the bouncer they were not going to let him back in. So he left, and he came back a second time. This time, he had a gun. Not sure what your reasoning is at this point, why you wouldn't have just called it a night when you've already been escorted out once and asked to leave again a second time after that. But this wasn't enough for Diego Brandao. He was like, nope, I'm getting back in here one way or the other. So he shows up with a gun and hits the bouncer with the gun. Thankfully, he didn't shoot him with the gun, or we'd have a whole different story right now. But he was arrested for assaulting the bouncer.
So, the story first broke, and it was Brando arrested for pistol whipping someone at a strip club. I'm like, what? No. And then I saw Albuquerque, New Mexico in the story. I'm like, oh no.
And he is a Jackson Winklejohn fighter, so you might as well just keep saying, oh no, because this is not a good look for that team to have two different guys getting in trouble with the law.
Well, if you take Brando's name out of the story and all you see is MMA fighter arrested, strip club, brandishing a gun, you're thinking, isn't Jones in Vegas?
You would think so, yes.
But I'm not singling him out because he's John Jones. It's because there's precedent there.
Like you said, Albuquerque, New Mexico, fighter gets arrested, that's who you're going to think of.
Exactly. So, between Bellator having a show last week and a show this week, between UFC doing the same thing, with Conor McGregor's alleged retirement, and Diego Brandao. Oh man,
Good times.
Yeah, good times. What's on tap for Thursday night AMP?
We're going to talk to Michael Kingston. He is the auteur of the Headlock The Last Territory comic book series, and he's got a new Kickstarter campaign. It has already been successfully funded, but that won't stop us from talking to him about it anyway.
There you go. Who's co-hosting with you on that one?
I believe it'll be our good friends Abby and Jason.
Cool. Alright, well that's going to do it for another episode of Glow Up or Shut Up. We're Stevie J at AngryMarks, and my Twitter is at HardcoreCDN. I'm Peter H, the Hardcore Canadian. Thanks for listening. As I always say, never leave it to the judges. Good night, everybody.
See ya!